Buenas noches, Vivian.
Buenas noches, profe.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches, ¿me escuchan?
More than the others in order to change the meaning. Intonation is how we change our pitch.
Ya no se escucha, profe.
Perdón, se me volvió loco. Buenas, Vivian, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, profe. Ya esta es la última clase.
Y comencemos de una vez porque no creo que vaya a llegar nadie, así que entra.
Listo, profe. Solamente, no sé si usted sabe que dice Sara Mitre, no sé si usted le quiere cambiar el nombre.
Mite, mi hija, espera. Siempre se me olvida, perdón. Ahí vamos, listo.
Perfecto. Muy buenas noches, queridos estudiantes, profesora Vivian Vargas, mi nombre es Vivian Sánchez, y hoy vamos a dar inicio a la sesión de Fonética 2. Recordarle algunos parámetros, que las sesiones se graban, ustedes pueden verla nuevamente en la plataforma virtual. Les solicitamos que por favor silencien su micrófono y puedan activarlo cuando ustedes deseen hacer cualquier consulta. Mi rol como moderador es facilitar y apoyar en la parte técnica, pueden hacer su consulta ya sea por el chat personal o general. También les exhorto que hay bolígrafo y papel para que puedan hacer sus anotaciones y aprovechar máximo esta sesión. Gracias, profesora. Puede dar inicio.
Gracias, Vivian. Good evening, everyone. We did it. We finished. Today is our class number 10. We finished today. Thank you for being here today or for having the opportunity to watch the video. Let me share with you what's going on with us, okay? Oh, no, I cannot. Sorry, my mistake. I have to close this. I have to open here. I have to go to Zoom. And then I will be able to share it, I think. Yes, here we are. So good evening, everyone. Let's take a look at what we have for this class. Remember that this module, this is module number 5. And for this module, we have 2 classes. Class number 9, last week, that we were talking about different things in terms of connected speech. So what is this? This is class number 10. Let me go to the protocol, do everything, and then we are going to do everything that we have to do, okay? So some aspects of connected speech. Then we go with the agenda. Give me a moment. Okay, so when we talk about the agenda, we talk about the class instructions. I'm happy that you are able to watch this video, but if you're too tired and you get too comfortable, then you may fall asleep, and we don't want that to happen. So what I need you to do, I need you to please be comfortable, but not as comfortable. I need you to please put the cell phone. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go first with the instructions. Today we have the class instructions, the class objectives, the introduction, the class development, and the reminder of the homework that you have to work on. Now, here is where I was talking about the instructions. I was getting ahead of myself. Now, avoid distractions. I have no cell phone with me today. My daughters took it. Understand objectives. I usually put it in airplane mode, but they took it today. Understand objectives, so you can know where you want to get. At the end of the class, you can say, I understood, or no, I learned something, or no. And don't skip tasks. I always tell you, you pay attention to the class, you do what you have to do, then you pay attention to the class, then you go and answer the forum, then you go and work on the activity, and when you have done all that, you are ready to take your test, okay? And that's it. Let's continue. In this case, our class objective for last class was assimilation, elision, linking, and etc. Today, we're going to do something kind of different. We are going to be talking about function of intonation. First of all, we are going to be talking about it, checking some videos, asking some questions about it, and later on, we are going to be reviewing what we have been doing during this Phonetic 2 course. Okay, good. Now, talking about this, last week we were talking about elision, and we were talking about linking. When we were talking about elision, we said that we omitted one or more sounds in a word or phrase to make it easier to pronounce. And then we had some examples. It's very difficult to say, he's very handsome. You have to go all the way, you know. So what you do is that you drop the D. He's very handsome. He's very handsome. But you don't say he's very handsome because it's gonna take longer. And remember, what you are looking for is to speak with efficiency in the shortest time possible. So acts. We don't say act because it goes too long. You don't say friendship. You say friendship. And you don't say father and son because it takes forever to do something like that. And then you say father and son. And so on. You have so many examples. There are some other things that you drop, but usually, or the most common one is when it becomes something that has to do with D and T, okay? And then we talk about linking. And then we said in the case of linking was combining the sounds from the end of one word to the beginning of the other word. And then we check the video about it. And then, for example, I say, I want this, I want this. Now, it sounds like here. I want this orange, this orange, this orange, this orange, this afternoon, this afternoon. You don't say, well, this afternoon, you say this afternoon, this, it's almost like this. Sound, the last sound gets together with the first sound of the next word. Easy busy, easy busy, easy busy. Okay. Cats or dogs, cats or dogs. And then you have, is it near enough? Is it near enough? Is it near enough? No. Is it near enough? Well, we do something like that in Spanish as well, so you may understand what I'm talking about. Now, we had the opportunity to check one of the PDFs, but not the other one, and it's something that we're going to be talking about today. And then let's go with the reading for the unit. Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. Give me a second. Where did it go? I don't know. Give me just a moment because I lost it. Just a second. Here it is. Let me open it and let me share it for you. Can you see it there? I think you can. Okay. Now, this is our second PDF that we have there. We are not going to go through every little detail, but we are going to check most of it, okay? Now, it's talking about functions of intonation. What things are part of intonation is the way we say the words. For example, in Spanish, you say, for example, if you talk to someone from the Dominican Republic, yo pensé que no ibas a venir. You see, that's the intonation. It goes up and down. Or the way that you stress the words and the pitch you put it in. Okay, the strength you put it in. So we are going to be talking about that just now. Then we have some definitions that we need to have clear over here. Now, these definitions are usually difficult for students to get, for everyone to get. Even native speakers, they don't know that much what they are talking about. So it says, stress. Stress is a degree of force with which a sound, syllable, or word is used. I'm going to give you an example of this in Spanish. I'm going to switch to Spanish just for a second for you to understand. Por ejemplo, me gusta esa canción. A mí me gusta esa canción. A mí me gusta esa. No, a mí me, no, sorry, my mistake. A mí me gusta esa canción. We don't notice it when we are talking, but the stress is there. We put stress to some words because not all the words can have stress. O sea, si le ponemos stress a todas las palabras, estaríamos todo el día. It would be crazy. So when we are talking, some words are stress, some words are unstressed. So this is what they are talking about. Is the degree of force, okay? Es como la sílaba tónica en español, que tú dices, por ejemplo, en teléfono, tú dices que tú no dices teléfono, tú no dices teléfono, tú no dices teléfono, tú dices teléfono. ¿Cuál es la sílaba tónica? Le. Las otras son más suaves. So, which one did you stress? Le. Teléfono. So the same thing happens over here. That is what stress is talking about. The pitch is the rate of vibration of the vocal cords. When we talk about the pitch, we usually think of the singers. It has a high pitch. And then you say, wow, it's a nice pitch, but it's a high pitch, okay? We'll talk about that now in the video. And tone is the overall behavior of pitch. What? Well, that will be the first part we are going to be talking about. Yes, let's talk about this, and then let's take a look at this so we can understand this a little bit better. Give me a moment. Coming. Let's talk about this. Let me do it. I need some sharing the sound. There we are. Okay, now we're going to take a look at this video. I'm going to be stopping and I'm going to be reviewing and checking that we understand what they're saying. Okay.
I don't understand how to use pitch. Why can't I hear pitch in my own voice? What's the difference between pitch and volume? Are they the same thing? They sound like it. How do you use pitch to communicate meaning in English? What does tone mean in English? Is English a tonal language? What's the difference between pitch, stress, and intonation? Some people talk about them as if they're the same thing. As you probably know by now.
Okay, good. You see the questions she made over there? The questions she made over there are the questions we have all of the time. Because sometimes, you know, when you haven't studied the thing, you are like, what's this? What's that? Okay, what's the difference? Because it's something that you cannot like see, like, you know, so it's kind of difficult for us. Okay, let's take a look at this and let's pay attention.
Now, I talk a lot about how to use pitch, intonation, and your voice here on my channel. Subtle changes in how you use your voice can affect how clearly you communicate your meaning in American English. In this video, I'm going to answer the most common questions you ask me about pitch, tone, and intonation. Let's get started. Let's start with the basics. What is pitch anyway? When we're talking about
let's talk about this, and then she's gonna review certain things, and we're going to pay attention to know which one is which one.
Languages, pitch is the highness or the lowness of your voice. In other words, it's the frequency of the sound waves that you produce when you're speaking. We often think about pitch when we're talking about singing or playing a musical instrument, but it's also extremely important when you're speaking English. In American English, we use changes in pitch to emphasize keywords through word and sentence stress. By stepping up to a higher pitch, we emphasize a certain syllable of a word. Pitch is one of the key elements that you need in order to emphasize a syllable with word stress. Native English speakers are listening for this higher pitch in order to hear you pronounce a word correctly. Listen to how I say these common words. Notebook, communication, today, listen, geography. Can you hear when my voice steps up to a higher pitch? Notebook, communication, today, listen, geography. We also use pitch to highlight the most important words in the entire sentence. In other words, we focus attention on the key words using our pitch. We stress or emphasize the key syllable of these words in order to indicate that they're the most important ones. When we move up and down between these pitch levels when speaking, we create the natural melody of English. I like to think of the spoken melody of English in terms of waves. We rise up to a higher pitch and then fall afterwards. Rise up to a higher pitch and then fall afterwards. Rise up to a higher pitch and then fall afterwards. You can hear this up and down, this rise and fall in pitch between stress syllables of stressed.
So you got it? Communication. Where did my pitch go higher? Communication. You see? It changes. Now, the pitch goes higher in the words that you're stressing, okay? It's different, okay.
Words and unstressed or reduced syllables that seem to become a little less obvious. If you listen closely, you can hear a consistent rise and fall in pitch, kind of like you're breathing or watching waves crash on the beach. We also use changes in pitch to communicate meaning through intonation. We'll talk more about intonation and tone of voice later in this video, so stay tuned. At this point, you may be wondering how to find your pitch, how to use pitch in your voice. You may not be able to hear pitch changes in your voice. The most important thing to understand when we talk about pitch in English is that the pitch you use is relative to you and your own voice. The pitch levels available to you in your own voice will be different than the ones that I can use. You may have a broader pitch range than I do, or you...
Okay. En pocas palabras, algunos naturalmente somos gritones, otros no. That's basically what they're saying here. Some people, when they just open their mouth and then they talk, and you're like, what happened there? You see? That's their pitch. And the pitch is going to go up and down, but that's the natural pitch. And usually we are not going to hear it ourselves, okay? That's what she's saying. Some people may have a broader pitch, and then some others may have a smaller one.
You may have a smaller one. That's why it's so important that you explore what's possible for you in your own voice, that you play around with pitch using the exercises I'm going to recommend so that you understand what you can do with your voice. Before we start experimenting with pitch using some of my favorite pitch exercises, I want to remind you that we generally speak within 4 main pitch levels in English. Check out this clip from my video on vocal exercises where I explain the 4 main pitch levels. In America.
Okay, so this is something that you can do. You can go here and then you can go back in the recording, and then you can go and then you can go to those other things and then you can practice. Now, what happens? Some things, they come naturally to us and it's just a matter of practice. And some things are a matter of imitation. Most of the time when we want to sound natural in English, what we have to do is that we have to imitate, because that's not our language and it will never be our language. So imitating what they do, imitating the sounds is the best we can do. Let's continue.
American English, we normally speak within 4 main pitch levels. At times, our pitch will go even higher, and at times it may go even lower. When you're speaking English, you want to feel comfortable moving up and down within these 4 pitch levels. Your baseline pitch is where your voice naturally rests. You're going to come down to your baseline pitch when you're saying words and syllables that don't really matter. These are what we call unstressed words and syllables. Think about how you may say function words like of, at, by, to. As you can hear, those words are said at a slightly lower pitch. This is your baseline pitch. When you're emphasizing keywords and syllables, your pitch is going to rise 1 step above the baseline pitch. At this pitch level, your voice should have richness, depth, and fullness. It should sound really nice. It should feel really comfortable and really natural. When you're emphasizing the most important words in the sentence, your pitch is going to hit 2 steps above your baseline. You'll hit the highest pitch level when saying the most important words in a thought group or sentence. You'll hit the lowest pitch level at the end of a declarative sentence when using falling intonation. That will be 1 step below your baseline. Now that you understand the relationship between the different pitch levels.
Okay, just checking. She says that there are 4 different pitch levels. And then she says the baseline. For example, when you're saying the fan voice, I was going to the park and you say and. I was going to the park and you go lower. Even when you say to the park, you go lower. You don't notice it, but you. I was going to the park. I was going to the park, and we go down. Okay. So depending on the importance of the word, or depending or if it's declarative, interrogative, negative, or WH question, whatever you are, the sentence you are producing at that moment, your pitch level is going to change. What is what we have to do? We have to imitate. Is the only thing that we can do. Let's take a look.
Levels that we use to express meaning in English, let's explore your pitch. As I mentioned in the video, it's important to identify your baseline pitch. This is the pitch where your voice naturally rests. This pitch should feel comfortable for you. For me, my baseline pitch is something like this. La, 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 la. This.
Did you notice? She has a strong pitch, naturally. I don't have that strong pitch, but she has it. And that's her baseline.
This is the pitch I'm going to use on unstressed words and syllables. La, 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 la. I can comfortably speak at my baseline pitch. La, 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 la. It's where my voice naturally rests. Now take a moment and try to find your baseline pitch. La, 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 la.
No, you do it. La, 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 la. That's my natural. What's yours? You do it on your own.
It may be higher or lower than what you're used to in your native language. Just experiment until you can find it. Now we're going to practice pitch steps up and down. This is the same exercise that I teach in my Power of Pitch video, so if you need more practice, you can check it out. As I mentioned, we just need to move 1 and 2 steps above the baseline pitch. Let's start at the baseline. La, 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 la. Now let's shift our pitch up 1 step. La, 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 la. It should be a.
So you go la, 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 and then you go la, 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 a little bit higher.
Natural move 1 step above the baseline. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Now let's move 1 more step above the baseline. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. As you can hear, there's a noticeable difference between my baseline 1 step above.
Okay, can you tell the difference? Can you notice the difference from la, 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 to la, 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 to la, 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 the way she was doing it? Although in our case, it may be lower because hers is really high.
And 2 steps above. Now let's move back down to the baseline from this higher pitch. La 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 la. Now let's practice moving 1 step below the baseline. La 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 la. At this point, you may be saying, Kim, I understand what you're talking about with regards to pitch, but I can't do it myself. I can't hear pitch in my own voice. This is why I encourage you to play around with your pitch.
In my sweats or a dress, I'm comfy, wearing the S Skechers. I'm upset.
Using pitch slides. In order to practice pitch slides, we're going to say a vowel sound and then hold that sound while sliding our pitch up and down. It may feel a little silly, but it will definitely help you understand how much pitch is available to you in your voice. Let's start with the long vowel sound E. We're going to slide our pitch up and down from low to high, high to low. E, 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 E.
Come on, you do it.
E, 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 E. Now let's try it with the long vowel sound a moment ago. As you continue to explore your voice, you're going to want to have more pitch variation and more variety in how you use your voice. This will help you sound more interesting, engaging, and expressive when you're speaking. In my experience, many non-native speakers tend to move between 2 pitch levels. To sound more expressive and
Okay,
finally meet you. Now let's move on and talk.
I don't want to stay there forever because I expect you to do it on your own. So the pitch is how you use your voice, the strength of your voice when you are talking, and it's going to be higher when you are using words that are important words, and it's going to be lower when you are saying words in the sentence that are not that important. Prepositions, conjunctions, they may not, unless you're emphasizing something, a coordinating conjunction like a fanboy is not going to be that important. Let's see the difference between pitch and volume.
Talk about the difference between pitch and volume. When you're exploring your pitch, you may start thinking that pitch seems to be the same thing as volume. Volume is the loudness or the softness of your voice. The reason pitch and volume are often confused is that they work together to create meaning. When we stress a syllable in English, we make it longer, louder, and higher in pitch. You'll hear an increase in volume at the same time that you'll hear a higher pitch level. It may also be confusing if you're used to using volume to stress or emphasize words in your native language. If it's easier for you to increase your volume than to increase your pitch, you may be substituting this louder sound when you're stressing words. Beyond that, you might find yourself dropping your pitch when you're speaking quietly. When you speak at a higher pitch level, your voice may be more obvious, it may draw more attention. So if you're trying to be quieter, you might drop down to a lower pitch. Or you may naturally increase your volume and your pitch at the same time when you're excited or you're trying to project your voice. Let's try to understand volume. Let's try saying the weather is great today while imagining these situations. First, try saying the weather is great today to someone who's sitting across a table from you. They're just a couple of feet away from you or a meter. They can hear you without extra volume. The weather is great today. The weather is great today. The weather is great today. Now try saying the weather is great today to someone across the room. The weather is great today. The weather is great today. The weather is great today. Hopefully you can hear how your voice got a little bit louder.
You notice the difference, right? How it got louder.
You may also notice a slight increase in pitch. It may help you project your voice a little more. Now let's say the weather is great today to someone in a library. Remember, you need to be quiet in a library, so you need to lower your volume. The weather is great today. The weather is great today. The weather is...
So, the pitch goes up, the volume goes up. The pitch goes down, the volume goes down. But it doesn't mean it's the same.
Is great today. As you can hear, when you start whispering, your volume also falls. Now let's try saying the weather is great today to someone across a stadium or standing on a different mountain. The weather is great today! The weather is great today! The weather is great today! You can definitely hear a difference when you start shouting to someone who's far away. As you can hear, pitch and volume work together when we stress words and syllables, but they're not the same thing. Because volume is commonly used to emphasize words in languages besides English, it's easy to get confused. Next, let's talk about the meaning of the word tone in English. When you hear people talk about...
Now, we talk about tone over there in the presentation I showed you. So let's take a look at this. Now, let's wrap up this information. The volume and the pitch, they look alike, but they are not the same, okay? You use them, let's suppose, you use naturally, in a sentence, your pitch goes up and down depending on the syllables that you're stressing, right now. And the volume goes up, like the whole thing goes up. Because when she was saying, the weather is great today, her whole volume went up, not only the parts of the stress words, everything was. So it's not the same. The volume goes up for everything, and the pitch goes up just for the important words or the words that you want to emphasize. Let's see now who's
about the word tone when they're speaking English. They're
I'm sorry. My mistake.
Usually referring to your tone of voice. In other words, tone is the short way to talk about your tone of voice. If you hear someone say, I don't like your tone, they're referring to the emotion or the attitude that's being expressed through your tone of voice or your intonation. We often use the words tone, tone of voice, and intonation interchangeably. Tone and tone of voice are more common to hear in everyday conversations. Intonation is a more specific technical term that we use when we're talking about improving your voice or improving how you play a musical instrument. Tone can also mean a vocal or musical sound, as well.
Now, there are several meanings for tone, but we are talking right now about the tone of our voice, like a general tone of our voice. And that is the one that we use sometimes when we want to say something, and then you say, I don't like your tone. I don't like the way you are saying things to me. Okay. Now wait, let's continue.
As the quality of that sound when we're talking about music. Remember, if you hear someone mention your tone or your tone of voice and they're not talking about playing a musical instrument, they're probably referring to your intonation or the meaning that you're expressing through rises and falls in pitch. Now that you understand how we use the word tone in everyday speech, let's talk about whether English is a tonal language. When people
the best way to burn fat and get in shape.
It's not keto, paleo, fasting, or vegan, and it's not super.
Give me a second. I want to stop watching this. Okay, now, so we are talking about, again, let me show it to you in the, here. Let me show it to you again. Can you see it now? Okay. So we have here the stress, the degree of force that you put, it's like la sílaba tónica, no? That's the ones that they have the stress in each word, the pitch, the rate of vibration of the things, and it's going to change according to the words that we are saying. And the tone is the overall behavior of pitch, and the tone is going to vary if we are saying, for example, a question, or if we are in denying something, so the tone is going to change. Now let's take a look at something. I'm going to show it to you very quickly, but I don't want you to stress on this. Basic concepts: we have tone unit, tonic syllable, the prehead, the head, and the tail. Now what happens? What's the tone unit? It says, the basic unit of intonation in a language consists of one or more syllables with a complete pitch movement. I'm going to read it again. The basic unit of intonation in a language consists of one or more syllables with a complete pitch movement. What happens? They're going like this. Okay. Now, a tone syllable. A tonic syllable is an obligatory component of tone unit, the center of the unit around which everything else is constructed is the tonic syllable or neutrals. Now, what's the tonic syllable in English? Example, it says, yon, is it you? In this example, there are two tone units because there are two tonic syllables in it. First is yon, one syllable neutral, and second, is it you? There are three syllables here, okay? Now, it contains a high degree of prominence, which is a property of a stressed syllable. Tone plus stress is a tonic stress, the stress that a tonic syllable has. So in this case, you say, yon, is it you? However, observe that here, you, it would have the stronger thing. Not the best example. Now, what's the head? They talk about the head. And they're not talking about the head. The head is all that part of a tone unit that extends from the first stress syllable up to the tonic syllable. Now it says, give me those. Give me, this is the head. Give me those. This is going to be a tonic syllable, but this is going to be the head, okay? If there is no stress syllable preceding the tonic syllable, there cannot be any head, okay? So there has to be a stress syllable, a tonic syllable, to have a head. Now the prehead, the unstressed syllable before the head is called the prehead, okay? So in this case, this is the prehead, because in another word. The pre-head can be found in two situations, where there is no head in an hour, or it says when the head is after the unstressed syllable. We have here this one, and then we have the pre-head. And then we talk about the tail. Any syllable that follows the tonic syllable or any syllable between the tonic syllable and the next tone unit is called the tail. Now, we have here the tonic syllable. So what is later over here is the tail. Look at it. Look at it. And it says, I might buy it. I might buy it. This is the head. This is the tonic syllable, and this is the tail. Buy it. We're not going to be talking about this. And then let me go to something else I will show you. Give me a second. We talk about pitch, we talk about volume, but we didn't tone, but we didn't talk about stress. So let's take a look at this video and let's stop it and let's make sure that we understand it. So remember, the pitch is going to be the way our vocal cords vibrate a little bit louder. The volume refers to our volume in general when we raise our voice in order to say something. And the tone and the intonation, they get confused sometimes, not exactly the same, is the way we say things, okay? Now, that's it.
Knowing how to pronounce new words so that other people understand them is a vital skill for every English learner. So today you'll learn about word stress and how emphasizing different syllables in a word can change its meaning. This lesson has been inspired by the English Vocabulary in Use Upper Intermediate book, an accessible and reliable high-quality material with lots of vocabulary. What is word stress? It's when a syllable is pronounced with greater force than other syllables in the same word. Happy, ago, education. The stress can be placed on any syllable in a word.
Can you notice it? The stress goes for the sílaba tónica that we call in Spanish. That's a stress.
So you have to learn how to do this correctly.
Although we don't have tilde in English.
But fortunately, there are some word stress patterns that can help you. Some two-syllable words in English look the same for the noun and the verb. And for some of these, when the word is a noun, the stress is on the first syllable. Record.
Record.
And when it is a verb, the stress is placed on the second syllable. To record.
Record.
Let's try it out. Which syllables are stressed in the two record words in?
So this is the verb and this is the noun. Remember, in the verb it goes to the second line, and in the noun it goes in the first syllable. So I wish I could record. I record. Let's see.
This sentence. I wish I could record a hit record. Here are some more words like these.
Project.
To project.
Increase.
To increase.
Present.
To present. My next project is decorating my room.
We could project the film onto that yellow wall.
You notice the difference? In the noun, you put it in the first syllable, but when it's working as a verb, you put it in the second syllable. And then in that case, your pitch goes higher in the second one or in the first one, depending.
Here are some more examples like these, taken from the English Vocabulary in Use Upper Intermediate book.
And then, for example, conduct, to conduct. Desert, to desert. This is my work permit, to permit. You have for instance, there is a contest. They have to contest. There is an increase. We need to increase. We have had some progress. They want to progress. This is the way.
Finally, there are some exceptions. These words keep the same stress pattern when being nouns and verbs. Label,
To label.
travel,
To travel.
answer.
To answer.
Multi-syllable words in English tend to put their main stress on the third syllable from the end. Arithmetic. So in this case, we count the syllables from the end. Arithmetic. Arithmetic. Now, where do I put stress if I add a suffix to this word?
Arithmetical. Arithmetical.
That's right. Biology. Biological.
Biological. Psychologist. Psychological.
That's right. Although there are plenty of exceptions, this pattern is very useful. In this game, you'll see a sentence like this one. Choose the right word.
Okay, let's do this. It says, he will present or present his ideas to the public tomorrow. What do you think it is? Remember, it says he will is an auxiliary, so what is coming next is a verb. So what do you do? Present or present? Take a look at this.
With the correct stress pattern from A and B to fill in the blank. You'll have 5 seconds to decide.
In this case, he will get a pay increase or increase? Increase.
He will get a pay increase.
He's studying to become a psychiatrist or a psychiatrist. Remember, we go like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. This would be 2 and 3. So which one would be?
She is studying to become a psychiatrist. All food products need to be labeled. You can find more examples in the English vocabulary in use after intermediate book. Vocabulary.
He is clearly rooting for the book. Okay, now let's continue here. This is everything that has to do with that part. And then last but not least, we are going to be talking about, there is one more video I want to show you that can make you understand a little better what we are talking about in terms of pitch and intonation, stressing. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Hi everyone, in this video we're going to have a look at the different patterns of intonation. Remember, intonation is a combination of...
So when it's saying intonation patterns, it's the same thing that you say functions of intonation, or intonation functions is the same, okay? So we are talking about this thing over here.
The change of pitch of our voice, stress and rhythm, all put together to produce meaning. If you're new to intonation, you could also first of all watch my introduction video on intonation. Now let's have a look at the 3 main patterns of intonation. First of all, we have a falling intonation. I'm going to give you an example by humming a falling intonation. Hopefully, you are able to hear the fall at the end of this utterance. Then we could have a rising intonation. Hopefully you were able to hear that too. And number 3, we could also have a combination of a full rising intonation. Again, I'm going to give you an example. A falling rising intonation. I'm going to give you more examples in a moment. Now, the question, of course, is what does each pattern sound like in sentences? And also, what pattern do we use and when? And that's what we're going to find out in this video.
You guys know how it is when you buy a new Mac, it's super fast at first, and then pretty soon after it starts to slow down. That's probably because you haven't been using Clean My Mac X, which will help clean, speed up, optimize.
Okay.
Now remember, I'm Billy English, and you can also follow me in Premiere so you can. Now, let's have a look at the different patterns. Now, what is the pattern in statements? First of all, here is an example. I love going to the beach. This is a statement. I'm stating a fact. Now let's listen again and pay attention to the intonation at the end of the sentence. I love going to the beach. I love going to the beach. Is it a falling or rising intonation? We live in London. We live in London. She works with me. She works with me. Hopefully you were able to hear that all of those statements have a falling intonation at the end. I'm going to read them out again. I love going to the beach. We live in London.
So I love going to the beach. It goes on. I love going to the beach. Okay. We live in London. We live in London. She works with me. They go up and then they go down. Okay. Let's go to the next one.
Now, what is the pattern of intonation in open questions? Let's first of all clear up what open questions really are. We sometimes also call them WH questions, and that is really because they start with a question word, and most of them start with WH. What, where, why, but also how. Here the WH is in different places. That's also a question word. And then we have many more. Now, those are open questions because the answer is always information. And what I mean by that is, if I ask you, where do you live? You will give me a place. I live over there. I live in Madrid. I live in the suburbs. So the answer is information. It is not just yes or no. And that is why we call them open questions. So here's an example of an open question. And again, I'm going to read it out in a moment. And I want you to listen carefully and tell me what the intonation pattern is. If you're watching this live, you can put that in the chat. Is it a rise or a fall? Where are you from? Where are you from? What do you do? What do you do? How long is it? How long is it? Hopefully you were able to hear the pattern of intonation in those open questions. It is a falling intonation at the end of the question. Where are you from?
Now, again, this you get it by repetition, by imitation, okay? So don't get that stress. So we are studying the course, so we need to study the course. We will do everything with it. But this, you will learn it by repetition, by imitation. You will listen to the others and then you will do it as well. Let's go here. We have closed questions. Then we have here, what I want you to see is, what's the pattern here? Let me see.
Now, let's have a look at a last intonation pattern, and that is for lists. Here is an example. Let's imagine we are organizing a party, and we're discussing what we need to buy before the party starts. Here's our sentence. Now, I want you to listen already carefully to the intonation. We need a cake, biscuits, snacks, and drinks. I'll say it one. Snacks. And now we list our last item.
So I want you to notice this. During the statements that you are doing, the list or whatever you're doing, most of it, during the thing, usually you go up several times because there are several words that are important that you need to stress on, okay? And then the intonation is going to be higher or harder. However, most of the times, at the end of the sentences or the questions or everything, the intonation is going to go down. This is it that I wanted to show you here. Now, what should we do now? What I want you to notice, give me a second. Okay, now we had this PDF that we had the opportunity to talk. This is the homework reminder. So we finished with this part over here. What is what I want to do? I want to go with you to the thing because this is our last class. And I want us to take a look at something interesting. What is what we have learned about in this course, okay? Now, let's take a look at this. Let's review certain things that we need to have clear over here. Let's see. Let me see what we can do here. Okay, now, we were talking about how consonant sounds are formed. So I need you to have this very, very clear. One thing is the letter, the grapheme, how it's written. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Those are the graphemes. Those are the letters. And then you say letter B, letter C, letter D, letter F, letter G. That's something. That's on this side and it's alone. We are not touching that at all. We are talking about phonetics, phone, sounds, and then we go there. Phonics, phonetics, we're talking about sounds. How they sound when you are forming the sentences or the words. For example, you say four. Fabric. We are talking about the sound. We are not talking about the letter. There are two different things. Good? So letters, graphemes, how they're written, the letter pronounced and everything, it's one thing. How do you identify the letter, the B, C, D, F, G? That's one thing. Now, on the other side, we are going to be talking about phonetics. That is what we have been doing all the way, okay? All the course. Now, when we talk about phonetics, we talk about how sounds, how consonant sounds, because one thing is the consonant sounds and the other things are the vowel sounds. That's a different story we haven't touched here. Now, when we talk about consonant sounds, we talk about the way they are formed. How do you form them? And then we come into three things. Let's remember, okay? The first one is called the place of articulation. It refers to where in your mouth the sound is produced. The second one is the manner of articulation, and it refers to the airflow. If the airflow passes or stops, or stops for a second and then passes and then opens, that's the manner of articulation. And then on the other side, we have voicing, that we say that a sound can be voiced or can be voiceless. A sound is voiced when our vocal cords, the ones that we have right here, we can feel right here when we're talking, if they vibrate, if they are like this, no? And if they vibrate, the way and the energy or the strength with which they vibrate is going to decide, okay? Now, when you pronounce the sound, not the letter, the sound, and it doesn't vibrate, okay? In that case, we say that that sound, that consonant sound, is voiceless. That's a different story. So we had the opportunity to see this, and this is called the IPA something. Give me a second. This is called the IPA. They call it. It's like a kind of an accepted, an international phonetics. I don't remember the other word at this moment. International phonetics. I don't remember. Now, so we have here, when we talk about the place of articulation, we say that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 types of the 8 different ways of producing consonant sounds, okay? Then we have here the bilabial, and then what you observe, because everything is in the bilabial, but what you observe on the right are the ones that are voiced. And the ones that you observe on the left are the ones that are voiceless. You don't feel anything moving there. They're called bilabial because you join the 2 lips in order to do it. Then we have the labiodental, like fa, like va. In this case, they are called labiodental because you join the lower lips with the upper lips. Then we have the dental, and the dental is with because you put your tongue between your 2 teeth. I mean, the upper and lower teeth, and then you go like the, or the. You go like the, or the, okay? And then we have the alveolar, again, these ones over here are voiced, and these ones over here are voiceless, and then they call alveolar because you put your tongue behind the teeth, up there behind the teeth, but close to the teeth, okay? That's the alveolar ridge. And then you have the post-alveolar ridge because they go a little bit the other way, a little bit backer, a little bit, I forgot the word, to the back of the, not here, a little bit to the alveolar ridge, but before getting to the palate, okay? The palate is on her, okay? Before getting there. So you have the alveolar, you have the teeth, and then you have the alveolar that is right behind the teeth. Then it's the post-alveolar that is a little bit more over there, deeper. And then you have the palatal that are on the palate, form on the palate, like J. And then you have the velar, that is the ones that, for example, G, or K, or G. The way they are produced, if you pay attention, G, or K, or K. There is something called over there on the back, the velum, okay? And then in the velum is formed the K and the K and the all of them, and then in this case, that's why you call them velar sounds. And the glottal, so you have something back there, almost in the throat, that is called the glottis. And in the glottis, you have the formation of, can you feel it? It comes from back there. That's the way you call it, okay? And then you have also the other way, that this is for the manner of articulation, and it refers to the fact of the airflow. Okay. Now, what does stop mean? Stop means that when you produce the sound, the airflow is stopped. For example, in the case of the stops that you have here, at that moment when you join them, the airflow stops. The same thing happens with the B. The same things happen with T, D, with K and J. At that moment, whatever you join there, these or the tongue and the teeth and the two teeth or whatever, at that moment, the airflow is going to stop. Then we have the nasal one. The air flows through your throat and through your nose. Now what happens? I can say, I can pronounce, I can form or produce those sounds, P, B, T, D. I can produce them. But then I say, my mother, I cannot produce the N. My nanny, no, I cannot produce them. So I say that these ones, or he was walking, no, I cannot produce the ing for the ing that you usually have. We have the N or the thing. Why? Because the airflow to produce these sounds goes through your nose. So in that case, if that's the case, why they are called nasal. And then we have trill that we didn't go into that one because it's kind of different in the way we put our nose and our mouth. And then we have the fricative. And the fricative is where in the stop, the airflow is cut. It's cut. In the fricative, the airflow keeps going. You see, it keeps going. It keeps going. However, then we have the affricates. And in the case of the affricate, we have when you produce the sound, you notice that you stop it and then you let it go. That moment you stop it and then you let it go. So in the case of the affricate, we refer to the sounds where this one is not for English. This one is for Russian. And then we're talking about these ones. And then in that case, you stop and then let it go. And then we have these ones over here that we didn't have the opportunity to see, and there's no problem with it. Okay. Now, this is the way the sounds are produced. Part of the things that we had the opportunity to check. Let me go here and then we had the opportunity to, this was like the most important thing. Let me show you that was in the module number 2. Now, in the module number 3, and module number 4, we had the opportunity to, give me a second. In the module number 2, in the module number 3 and number 4, we had the opportunity to work with them one by one. We even had the opportunity to make a practice and everything on how to pronounce this. And then finally, in the number 5, we are checking the aspects, and we're talking about linking, we are talking about elision, and then now we are talking about intonation, and we talk about pitch, we talk about tone, and then we talk about stress as well. Now, what happens? Here, we had the opportunity to check the videos, to check the readings, and then we have the forum. The forum, we talk about what was elision and why is elision important, because we want to speak, to be able to speak efficiently in the shortest amount of time. So that's why elision is important, because if you have to say, the thing is that we have a long, you don't say a long friendship. We have a long friendship. You see? We have a long friendship. You don't pronounce it. Yeah, you do. You have a long friendship. Okay. Now, you have to work in the PowerPoint. You need to have your voice in the background explaining the topic. We talked about this yesterday, and then you have it last week, and then we have the test ready for you to perform. Okay, in case it didn't go well, you will have the chance from tomorrow, I think, from next week. So from next week, you will have the chance to take some recovery tests, and that will be what you have to do. Here you have the rubric for activity 1, that is the forum, and then you have some other complementary materials. The other thing I have to remind you is that you can always visit the virtual library, and if you visit it, you will have the opportunity to access many information and many books and much information that can be good for you to have. Okay, so phonetics. Phonetics is something that if we study thoroughly, we are going to discover that it will improve the way we pronounce words. Okay. However, the best way we can produce words better is by repetition and by imitation. This is a class. If you are a teacher in a school, you won't have to teach this. This is part of the curriculum of status for this class, and it's good for you to know it. It's good for you to have the knowledge and the expertise on this. But when it comes to pronunciation, and if you have some trouble, I have a coworker, and when she pronounces words, she says, when with, she has trouble saying those things. Today she was saying, because of the student, trying to say student, you see? So if you do have trouble doing that, I highly advise you to take this information, to watch for videos, to practice over and over until you can get it better. However, the best way in your daily life, you can improve, increase, better the way you pronounce things is by repetition and by listening. The more you listen, the more you say, that's the way the word is said. That's the way the word is said. The more you do it. And finally, by imitation. You listen to it and then you imitate what they say, how they say it. And then the more you get exposed to the language, the easier it's going to be for you. That would be it for me, people. I really appreciate having the opportunity to have a class with you. Thank you for being here. I know it's not easy when you are tired and everything to come here to have a class, but I really appreciate you being here and having the class. Thank you for everything. I wish you the best. I hope you can finish your class. I will be checking your work, and I will be checking your work at the platform, at the Camino platform, so I can grade it for you and send you your grades. Thank you so much. Yaibel.
Muchas gracias, profesora. Bueno, como no hay estudiantes, no hay consulta, vamos a dar la clase como finalizada. Feliz noche, profesora.
Muchísimas gracias por todo, ¿viste?
Gracias a usted también.
Estés bien. Bye bye.